on the last day, so that you can better connect professionally as an individual, whether it's microservice or I would like to keep the connect with you, each of you, 10 guys, 10 people whom I know now the last 10 days. Okay. And it's also for microservice. I mean, in terms, if you want to ask a question on WhatsApp or if you want to ask me on LinkedIn, both I'm fine. Okay. Proceeding with the Saga world, the Saga orchestration. So whatever I spoke to you in terms of Saga, there's all in terms of having a what do you say, a sync between two services or two databases. Okay. Now, what if there are multiple databases or multiple services which are involved? I cannot. I mean, I can definitely follow the choreography model. Okay, one after the other. That is, I would make sure that somebody does this. Somebody the one which is there on the one client or the message broker makes sure to do synchronization. But I'm going to delegate this to a different service. Okay, let's say I'm going to one service is going to make sure the sequence of steps. Okay, it makes sure that the orchestration happens. Orchestration. So choreography is something like one after the other, and orchestration is we can say that it is all of these steps, whether they succeed or fail, will not be decided at the each service end. It will be decided by one orchestrator. Okay, so we'll have an orchestrator service. So in this case, we have something called as create order Saga. The create order Saga that we created is going to make sure to orchestrate and send it's going to send the update to all connected microservices. Okay, let's say we have we're going to create it in such a way that it will say step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and that entire pattern, that entire what do you say, that entire pattern of update is called as orchestration. So if I do something and I leave it, in my previous diagram, you can see here, once it's updated, immediately send it to the, I make sure that it's sent across to the other service and it's updated and I get back the response. Okay. But when I'm having, when I want to change it to a sequence of steps, when I'm going to have an orchestrator to make sure that it's going to complete all set of steps and only then the transaction succeeds. Okay. Rather than saying that I committed the transaction, okay, and I rolled it back as a one sequence, I'm doing it in an orchestrator, a controller. So simple example, that same thing happens in both the cases, but in one case, it is a sequence, one and a point to point. But in case of orchestrator, there's a central class. It's going to make sure that it happens in a flow controlled by the controller class. It makes sure to handle it in a controller class. Okay. So that diagram you see, create order Saga, it'll have all the sequence of steps which has to be done. It might say commit data to database, commit data to inventory database. It'll say commit data to. So create order Saga in our case, the example that we are saying. Okay, it'll be called as create create product Saga. In that it'll say commit data to product database. Second number step, it will say commit data in the order management database. Okay. Then it might be like you can think of it as a workflow diagram, and then it will say that if it fails, then you fall back and you show a message. Okay, you show a message on the screen, or you send back a message reply, and then end the workflow. Okay. Otherwise, it might say if it fails, then you do a compensating transaction. Okay, so it'll be like a design like a workflow. You do the compensating transaction and then end the workflow. So that is the difference between the Saga choreography and orchestration. So you can choose to apply choreography if there are less number of steps. Okay, and if there are less number of actors involved, like less number of services and less number of steps, then we can better go for choreography. Okay, orchestration is that your central control. You have one control where everything is happening. So it will in that well-defined you can say orchestrator class. You can, if a developer goes in, okay, it might be some orchestrator class or it might be an orchestrator configuration. In that one particular class, you will be able to see all the steps that are there. You can see whether there are 10 services involved, whether there are 10 steps involved. Okay, so the compensatory transaction is going to happen. Where is the compensatory transaction located? Where, how I have to call? So all of those things. Okay, when we are going to do it in an orchestrator way, we call it Saga orchestration. Otherwise, it's the same. Central concept is same. What is happening behind the scenes is the same. If things succeed, everything succeeds in a distributed transaction. If one step also fails, we have to do the compensatory transaction and say that it has failed. The transaction has failed. So that is the idea of having having a Saga pattern, whether it is choreography or orchestration. It's the same here. This diagram comes from Microservices.io. They explain order, service, and customer service, and the steps are labeled. If you go to that link, you can see this particular use case that they are defined here. Okay, you now whatever I explained to you, you go there and read that. Not just now, like later, not immediately. You will find out what is whatever I told you now. You'll be able to correlate it on a different use case, which is order and customer. Okay, and then you can. I mean, like I said, building that mind map is important. Then you will be able to implement it using any pattern. Okay, you'll start understanding if you use Saga in Axon, Camel, or whether you use step functions, or whether you use any workflow system. It'll go all the way to syntax also. Okay, syntax and semantics configuration. They'll have the almost same kind of names. Okay. There might be names like compensatory transaction. There'll be names like retry, fallback, because circuit breaker implementation. Okay, retry, fallback, exponential back off. All those things. This you can make some decisions there whether things succeed then this, or if this happens then this. So all those things are within the realms of Saga implementation framework. Many products are there. Whatever implementation you choose, it will be like a workflow, and you can build your Saga using that workflow implementation. Okay.